Salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. First of all, I want to thank the organization BLING for giving me this opportunity, and also the brother Shawaz, his company Cremo, for sponsoring this event. If you want to know more about Cremo, you can contact BLING, sir. Jazakumullah khair. This is actually my third time in Sweden. It's always amazing coming to this country. The brothers, mashallah, they always show me a good time. The people are very calm here. You know, it's very calm, very easygoing. Coming from America and these places, I'm always amazed when I come to Sweden. Just the other day, matter of fact, just yesterday, we was in downtown, the middle of the country or the city, and nobody was talking. Everybody was walking down the street and they was whispering to each other. I said, man, this is amazing, mashallah. So we can really, I appreciate this, you know what I mean? It seems like majority of the people here have good manners, alhamdulillah. Today's event, we wanted to discuss entrepreneurship. And I wanted to, talk for a good 35, 45 minutes, no more than an hour. And then we can have times for question and answer, inshallah. We can have some questions, inshallah. I wanted to pretty much talk about my life experiences. Growing up in New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey, Irvington, New Jersey, pretty much I can say similar to some of the hoods in Sweden. It was, mashallah, but you guys' hoods is pretty much multicultural. You see people from all different backgrounds, which I think is something that you guys can take advantage because there's so many different cultures that you guys can benefit from one another. When I was raised in New Jersey, Irvington, New Jersey, it was either blacks, a few Latinos sprinkled here, and the only time we saw, for example, white people was our teachers or police officers. So I think in those type of environments, it can produce some type of prejudice that you don't even know. You understand? You start to really feel like those from different races or those from different colors is meant to be in this position and you meant to be in this position. But alhamdulillah, after traveling and going to different countries, you start experiencing different cultures. And I think you guys have something unique here in Sweden because the ghettos or the hoods is multicultural, mashallah. You're going to see white people, black people, Arabs, Somalians, people from all different parts of the world. Yesterday I was with a guy, he was from Chile, huh? And he was speaking Arabic. He was saying Habibi, Shukran, and he was saying because he grew up in the hood and he was able to grab this from the Muslims, alhamdulillah. So I think you guys have a head start that many of us didn't have growing up in the inner cities of America. The way I was raised in the ghettos of the USA, alhamdulillah, from a very young age, I had a mindset that I wanted to make it about this environment. I had a mindset that I think is the mindset plays a major role on what we're going to achieve in life. Because if we already have a mindset that we belong in this ghetto and all we can succeed is from what the ghetto allow us to accomplish, then we already lost before we begun. But I grew up in an environment that when I see my brothers, for example, my oldest brothers going to jail because they always drug dealers. When I see my neighbors and my homies getting murdered, going to prison from a young age, I said, this is not what I want for myself. So I already adopted a mindset that I said, I'm going to make it up out of the hood. And many of us, of course, back then, we didn't really take education that serious. But I see, and I notice here in Sweden, you guys have free education, mashallah. The government supports you. So it's hard for me to see why not you guys, or maybe you guys in the room is doing it, but it's hard for me to see how come people not taking advantage of that. We didn't really have these opportunities growing up. So one of the things that I felt like I needed to do to make it up out of the hood was turn to music. I didn't really like education. I didn't really like school, so I said I wanted to be a rap artist. That's probably an easy way for me to make it up out of the hood. When I wanted to be a rapper, what was that, 30-something years ago, it wasn't as common as now. When you go to every hood, everybody's a rapper. You know, everybody's a rapper and everybody has a mixtape. When I grew up, it wasn't that common. So I got a name for myself in my neighborhood because it wasn't too many other people doing music. And what inspired me is that when I seen the negativities from my hood is what made me say I need to get up out of here. I don't want to be in this environment for long. I remember the first time that I tried to sell drugs, for example. The first day that I went outside and I tried to sell drugs because I thought that this was, at that particular time of my life, I thought that this was my only outlet. And when I went and I tried to sell drugs, the very first day, I thank Allah for this, alhamdulillah, the very first day I got arrested. Maybe the first hour, the first hour I realized that I'm a bad drug dealer, alhamdulillah. My whole neighborhood was clowning me. My brothers clowned me. The homies was laughing at me like, man, how you go to jail your first day? Everybody clowned me. And that rejection from the drug dealers made me say I need to do something that nobody else in the neighborhood can do. And I started to write rap poetry. And I would go back outside and I would rap and I would make the same drug dealers who laughed at me pay me to rap. So when they say come kick a rap, I say no, you gotta pay me $1, 50 cents. Back then this was a lot of money. So when I started to make money from rap, like freestyling in my neighborhood, I started to get more serious. I eventually met up with a childhood friend of mine, Gaddafi, the brother of Tupac Shakur, and eventually I got involved in the music industry when Tupac decided to put a rap group together. Now the reason why I'm going to touch upon the music industry because I think I was able to learn a lot of things about entrepreneurship from the music industry. And the music industry is one of the most cutthroat industries or environment that you could be involved in. And when I got into the music industry, I got into the music industry with the mindset that I'm going to make it about in the hood. I'm going to get away from all the negativities that I see in my neighborhood, my environment. But I was surprised to find out that the music industry was 1,000 times worse than the streets. 1,000 times worse than the street. The people in the music industry was more cutthroat than the streets. I was surprised, you know? So after getting in the music industry, Tupac started the group, the Outlawz, and we did over, what, 40, 50, 60 million records worldwide. These people was worse than drug dealers, literally. The music industry was one of the worst things that I've ever been involved in. And I say this in a way where most people might not understand. I say this in where people might say, well, we would love to be in that position. You have no idea about what goes on behind the scenes in the music industry. You got people that, for example, I would say I was on 40, 50 million record sales worldwide. I'm supposed to at least have $10, $20 million in my bank account. But since I was in the music industry as a teenager, those who was around me, from lawyers and people that I thought that had my best interests, these was the ones stealing and robbing the money from me. People that you thought recently, for example, about 4, 5, 6 years ago, I remember I had a meeting with a lawyer, and he was explaining how he had an artist from the 70s that they stole so much money from him. He told me, he said, man, the music industry will make the Italian mafia or the Russian mafia or whatever mafia you want to say look like a church choir. He said, I've never seen this much corruption in my life as a lawyer. And he said, it's on so many levels. It's on so many levels. Like the CEO of the music industry is in connection with the judge, connected with this lawyer. So when you go and try to put a lawsuit against the music industry, he pick up the phone and call the DA and call his lawyer, they throw it out. So everybody works together to keep you away from collecting your money. Now it's different, but back then it was bad. So the music industry, I really don't have nothing positive to say about it. Nothing positive to say about it. I lost some of my best friends. I lost Tupac, I lost Gaddafi. When I think about the music industry, I think about hardships. I think about, okay, yeah, I sold 40, 60 million. Well, I was on records that sold 40, 60 million records, but I lost Tupac. I lost Gaddafi. I lost it many, many days of hard work because they didn't pay me my rights. But one of the things that I would say I got from the music industry, that I was able to take from the music industry, is entrepreneurship, an attitude to start my own business. Because when I left the music industry, most of you guys probably know now from what happened to Nipsey Hussle. When you leave the music industry, you cannot go back to your hood. There's no way. You cannot go back to the hood. You have to keep going somehow. You have to keep pushing. But going back to the hood, it's more dangerous than when you left it. And I say that because people will start believing that, okay, you was on 40, 50, 60 million records worldwide. They might not know that millions of dollars got stolen from me. They look at it like you got money and you hide that money somewhere. So what inspired me is that, look, now that I have my kids, I have my first son, I said, there's no way I can go back to the hood because I know what happens in the hood. People will try to be breaking in my house, tie you up. It would be chaotic. So I started to say to myself, and unfortunately, I didn't finish my education. Unfortunately, I said, there's no way for me to move forward except entrepreneurship. So I clicked into an entrepreneurship mode where I started to do every little thing to try to bring in some money. And one of the things that I realized in entrepreneurship and business, for example, is that nothing comes overnight. Most of us, we start a business and we want to succeed overnight. Man, I probably started 20, 30 businesses and they all failed. They all failed at the beginning. But I told myself, don't give up, because, you know, for each business that I started, I came this close of succeeding, so it made me want to keep pushing. And unfortunately, you have a lot of people that when they start a business, as our brother Abdul mentioned, man, as a reminder that some people might start a business in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, even 1 year, they might not see no outcome, or they might not see good income, or they might not see good fruition from the reaping of, for what the reward for what they work, so they close their business, they give up. And as our brother mentioned, he said, for example, was it Apple? They started in the garage and people laughed at them. Starbucks, for example, they got turned away, I think, over 200 times. They took their business plans to different banks over 200 times, and each time they closed their door on them and said, we don't believe this will work. Now, if you think about coffee, the first thing that might come to mind is Starbucks. But if they would have gave up, we wouldn't have no Starbucks, even though Starbucks is corny coffee. But if they would have gave up, we wouldn't have no Starbucks. So if you look at the people that succeeded in business, one of the things of any entrepreneur that was successful, one of the things that they have in common is that they never gave up. They never gave up. So I went through, man, when I started off, I had everything from, I bought soda machines. I remember I bought soda machines and I thought I was going to get rich overnight with the soda machines. I bought about 10 soda machines, vending machines, and I was calling around different apartment buildings in LA, and I was putting them, and I thought it was going to be easy. I put them in different apartment buildings. I said, man, halas, I'm rich now. Until I got a phone call where they said, man, your machine don't work. Your machine took my money and they didn't give me my money back or my sweets or my chocolate. Then I started to realize I didn't prepare myself for that. So one of the things in entrepreneurship and business, we have to prepare ourselves as much as possible. And we have to be prepared for obstacles that's going to come our way. We have to be prepared for obstacles. So when that business didn't work, I continue, you know what I mean, I continue to do different business. And one of the things that I learned from the music industry is that when we get a record deal, for example, they give us an advancement. They give us an advancement where, let's say they might give us $50,000 up front, sometimes $100,000 up front. And I noticed all my friends, when they got this advancement, the first thing they wanted to do is buy new cars, buy new jewelry. I was smart enough, thank God, to know that this advancement must be paid back. So it's basically a loan. So if you're walking away with $100,000 or $50,000, why spend money on jewelry? Why spend money on cars? So when I got advancement, the first thing I looked at my friends and I said, man, this money either we're going to have to pay it back through record sales or we're going to be in debt. So I took some of that money and I started to invest in different business. I opened up a barbershop. Me and my brother had a barbershop. And it lasted for a good 2-3 years. We had a good run for 2-3 years, and then all of a sudden, it collapsed. It failed. And I looked at it and said, you know, that's another business that I tried. And I started to get a little, you know, you start looking a little, you start feeling down. You start feeling like this is the second business that I started and it didn't work. Now what I'm going to do. But one of the things I noticed, man, that entrepreneurship, and I keep reminding it to me that when a person asks what is an entrepreneur, the thing that comes to my mind is that they never give up. They never give up. Because if you give up, you don't know what was waiting for you if you gave up. You know what I mean? So after losing a barbershop, I got into real estate. And the real estate was booming. And then it failed. And I like to share these stories because I'm sure that there's people in this room that might be going through the same thing. When the real estate business market fell, my business fell. And then it got to a point where after I accepted the religion of Islam, I walked away from the music industry. And I walked away from everything. And when I walked away from the music industry, I hit rock bottom. And when I mean I hit rock bottom to the point that literally I had to sleep in my brother's house on the couch. And when I wanted to my son, I had my second son, Muhammad, he was 6 months old. And when I wanted to buy diapers, literally I used to go to my brother's couch. And I used to pick up the couch, the pillow, and I used to look for quarters and change and 25, 50 cents and $1. And I used to go buy diapers this way. My brother used to look at me like, man, you must be crazy. He's like, man, you got an opportunity. People was coming to me and saying, we wanted you to start a record company. We'll pay for you a salary to run our record company. I said, no, but I don't want to do that life anymore. I'm going to be patient until I do something that I feel is pleasing to my Lord. My friends thought I was crazy. They'd see me walking around with a thobe on. This before it was cool. This before all the rappers was wearing thobes and going to Dubai and taking pictures. When I was doing it 15, 16 years ago, I was a nutcase. They would say, man, this dude done lost his mind. Islam made him crazy. So my brother would come to me, he's like, look, man, I got a job for you, and I got a job for your wife right now, but she got to take off her hijab. And I said, man, we're not doing that. My wife, he used to be like, man, what type of religion making you, he thought I was Majnun. He thought I was crazy. But one thing that I had, alhamdulillah, I had faith that if I try my best and I strive and I try my best to stick to what my Creator told me to do, eventually He will open up a door for me. I had no doubt about that. So when everybody was laughing at me, my brothers, my friends, my entrepreneur spirit kicked in even harder. So I took a trip to the UAE. And I believe I had $300 to my name. I took a trip. No, actually, I was trying to move. I was trying to move out of America. I wanted to go to Saudi or to the UAE. And I had $10,000 that I saved. And I used it on airline tickets. I used it on this. And 3 months staying in the UAE, I got broke. And this was another experience that I really enjoyed. And when I went through this hardship, believe it or not, I always tell the people this was the best days of my life, and I will explain. Because it let me really see who was in my corner. When I got to zero, when I hit rock bottom, I was calling family members. Because now my visa for the UAE was over, I had to go back to America. The people that invited me to move to Saudi Arabia, they turned their back on me. Every belongings that I had, I packed up and I shipped to Saudi Arabia because I thought I was going to move there. When I got to the UAE, 3 months later, the person who had the visa for me to come to Saudi Arabia, he stopped picking up the phone call. My clothes that I shipped on the boat, I didn't even have $500 to pay to ship it back. I lost everything. Then I went back to America. Alhamdulillah, Mike Epps, may Allah guide him. Anybody know Mike Epps?
Yeah.
This is why I got a lot of love from Mike Epps, because I was calling so many people. Like, look here, man, I got to leave the UAE. I got to come back to America. I didn't even have money for airline tickets. I was calling everybody. I guess they were saying, no, you put yourself in that position. You handle your own business. And I called Mike Epps, man, like guide him. This is why I love this dude. I called him. I said, look, man, I need to get back to home. My visa's up. If you let me borrow the money to buy the airline tickets, I need 3 airline tickets, myself, my wife, and my young son. If you let me borrow the money, I'll pay you back once I get there. So I get a phone call a couple hours later, Mike, and I was like, I don't even need an airline seat for my son because he was 3, 4, 5 months old. He'd sit on my lap. So I get a phone call back from Mike Epps. He said, look, I bought an airline ticket for you, your wife, and your son. And when I got to America, he said, man, you don't have to pay me a penny back. And that was the first time that I really started to see who was really in my corner. So alhamdulillah, when I was in the UAE, I bought maybe like $100 worth of oil. $100 worth of oil. I went to the masjid. And when I went to the masjid, I was slinging. Before I moved to the UAE, I was driving Escalade trucks in the masjid. Now when I went back to America, I had no apartment, I had no place to stay. All my clothes that I shipped to Saudi Arabia, except for a few thobes, all my clothes was missing. I didn't have nowhere to sleep. I stayed at my brother's house. And that's when he thought I was Majnun. He thought I was crazy. Every day, he telling me to get up and go find a job. So I went to the masjid. And wallahi, this is why I say this is the best days of my life. Because I remember when I sold my first bottle of oil, Attar, perfume, the first bottle of oil. It might have been $20. That $20 I felt rich. Wallahi, I felt so good. I start remembering that I used to get checks from the music industry, and if a check was like $500, $300, I never used to cash them. I used to say, man, I'm not going to the bank and wait in line to cash a check for $300. That's no money. But when I was hitting rock bottom, man, I wish I had them checks. I start remembering about all them checks I didn't cash, and I'm like, damn, where these checks at? I started remembering about all the times that I wasted money. I started to remember about all the good opportunities that I had that I didn't really care about. So when I sold my first couple bottles, I felt good. I got about $100, $150. I went to get a rental car. I got a rental car. I don't even remember the name of the rental car. It was so small. Before this, prior to this struggle, I was so arrogant that I wouldn't even drive in this type of rental car. I wouldn't even drive in that car. Like I had a chip in I had Kipper that I used to say, man, I'm not driving in that car like that. I wouldn't even want to ride in the car with my friends. But when I first got that rental car, wallahi, I felt like I was in a Benz. Like I felt good, you know what I mean? and it was something that Allah was showing me. Allah brought me to my lowest as far as the dunya, but it made me thankful. It made me thankful for every penny that I was making. So I took this money and I started to buy clothes. I started to buy clothes, jeans above the ankle, stuff like that they sell at Islamic markets, and it would be Islamic events. And I fly to this event and I have a booth and I would sell clothes. I started to grind. I started to sell clothes at these events, and I made enough money to finally rent an apartment. I made enough money that I was able to get an apartment, and in my apartment I didn't even have furniture. I didn't even have furniture. I put a couple sheets on the ground, you know what I mean, sheets and pillow. But wallahi, when I got this apartment, I felt like I was in a mansion. I felt like it's something about grinding on your own and working with your own hands and halal and money that's permissible to the creator of the heavens and the earth. It's something about when you get to that point and you start, even if it's a little bit, Allah put barakah, He put blessings in it. And I was able to experience that, and I was able to compare from the two. When I got to the music industry, my first check when I was 17, 18 years old was $150,000. And I was able to look back at that money that I was making in the music industry. It had no barakah. It had no blessings in it. It came and it went right away. You know what I mean? It seemed like the more money that I was making in the music industry, I felt like I was struggling. But when I got to this point in my life, when I got my apartment, it just felt, mashallah, I thought I was in a mansion. I had a small rental outside. I didn't care who was laughing at me. My brother was in the Benz. All my homies driving in Benzes. And I'm pulling up in my small rental. And I'm coming in my house, in my apartment. I had no furniture. I had nothing. But just the experience of going through hardships from hitting rock bottom and making it up on your own is something rewarding in that. Because you grinded, because I was able to grind with my own hands. And this is the same thing with entrepreneurship. This is the same thing with entrepreneurship. It might start off small. You might start off making a small amount of money. But if it's permissible, and if it's a small and you're doing it in a permissible and a halal way, you will have blessings that Allah will put in that money. Allah will put blessings in it and it will go a long way. Because sometimes we want to make the fast money. It's easy to make fast money. It's easy for us to give up and say, you know what, man, I don't want to start a business. I'd rather sell drugs. It's easy to go in the corner and sell drugs, but you don't look at the expense. You don't look what comes with that lifestyle. You might get your head blown off. You might go to prison. For what? Every drug, bro, wallahi, I come from an environment. My brother, for example, my brother was the biggest drug dealer. The biggest drug dealer in my neighborhood, my own brother. And I remember he was driving around Aston Martins, Benzes, BMW, the biggest drug dealer. And now when you sit and have a conversation with him, alhamdulillah, Allah guided him to Islam. When you sit and have a conversation with him, he has nothing to show for that lifestyle. I don't know no drug dealers who became successful drug dealers who really can look back at their life and say, man, when I was a drug dealer, this is what I got from it. It's a lifestyle that you would never give up because you would believe you can make more, and eventually you're going to be in prison. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. You're going to go to jail or you're going to be murdered. This is the life of a drug dealer. So the devil might make it seem easy for you, and it might be easy at the beginning. But you have to remember, the more you climb up that ladder in the streets, the more enemies going to be looking to take you out. And it happened with my own brother. His house got shot up multiple times. He got shot. It happened to him. he had to give up and walk away from that life. So when you start a business, it might be hard, it might be difficult at the beginning. You might not make that much money at the beginning, but it's rewarding. The reward of making halal money, risk that's halal and it's clean. Allah, God put blessings in it. So when I was making this little bit of money and I got an apartment with no furniture, I felt happy. I felt better than when I was living in a 4 or 5 bedroom home. Believe it or not. I had 3 houses at one particular time in my life. 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, but every single night when I went to sleep, I was depressed. Every single night I went to sleep in the music industry when I was riding around in Lexus and Mercedes Benzes, and every night of my life I was depressed. I had to drink alcohol. I had to get high just to try to escape the reality that the way that I'm living my life, even though I have everything from the worldly life, but I was depressed. When I hit rock bottom, I was the happiest. How come? I was the happiest. My money was going a long way. It was a little bit, but it was lasting. So eventually, when I tell these brothers, because now we have Instagram and we have Facebook, and brothers will come up to me and they say, man, I see that you have this business. They don't really know the struggles that I went through to get to that point. It wasn't like I just woke up overnight and alhamdulillah I had a coffee business. No, I'm going to explain to you how we got there. So eventually I started selling clothes, got an apartment building, sleeping on the floor every day. Alhamdulillah, I was happy. Just one sheet, you know what I mean? No pillows, nothing, man. We was thugging out at my house, alhamdulillah. Halal thugging, we was loving it. So eventually I was able to get back on my feet. And I think that experience made me grateful. It really made me grateful to Allah, because before this in the music industry, the money that I was making, I thought the money was coming from myself. But when you hit rock bottom and you got to pray to God to open up a way for you, you really appreciate what you're making. You really appreciate it, even if it's a little bit. So eventually I continued to sell clothes, and I continued to strive and grind. And I always wanted to start my own coffee business. When I was a young kid, I remember my grandfather. My mother's father's from Cuba, and her mother's from Puerto Rico. My father's side of the family is African American, Native American. We a cocktail, we mix. And the Cuban and Latino family back in the day, they used to give me coffee when I was a kid. You know what I mean? My grandfather used to give me coffee from Cuba, and I remember drinking this coffee, and I'm like, man, whatever this is good. But when I got into the music industry, I used to drink other things, you know? And for some reason, when I left the music industry and I stopped drinking these other bad things, for some reason, coffee that my grandfather gave me came back and hit my taste buds. And I started saying, damn, Grandpa used to give me coffee. Matter of fact, I'm going to the coffee shop. And I started drinking coffee. And I started to investigate and research the coffee industry. I wanted to know where coffee is coming from. How is it grown? Who's importing it to America? So I have an email and I show brothers when they come to me and say, mashallah, alhamdulillah, you have your own coffee business. How did you get it? I have emails from 2003, 2004, something like this, when I started to research about coffee business. And I started to really realize that, and notice, for example, in America, the only beverage drunk more than coffee is water. So I wanted to know more about the coffee business, and as an entrepreneur mindset, I said, I want to get involved in coffee. I want to get involved in coffee. So I started researching since 2003 to 2004. And years later, after researching, after trying and making phone calls and reading, from 2003, 2004, I would say maybe 2013 or 2014, I was able to open my own coffee business. So look how many years it took. It took years, it took time, it took dedication, it took grind, it took education, it took learning. As an entrepreneur, it might not happen overnight, but if you really, really want it that bad, if you have the urge to want it, then you will never give up. You will never give up. So alhamdulillah, I had something inside of me that I said, look here, man, I'm going to do a coffee business one way or another. I opened my own coffee shop. And the first coffee shop that I opened with a friend of mine from Amsterdam, believe it or not, we opened in Dubai. And guess what? So imagine this. Imagine waiting 8, 9 years to start a coffee business that you wanted. Imagine this. 8, 9 years. And when I finally opened up a coffee business, 1 year later we closed down. Imagine that. Most people would say, damn, man, maybe the coffee business ain't good for you. But I never gave up because I seen that the error the mistakes of closing down the coffee business was from my side. It wasn't from the coffee business itself. It's a good business. And we was making good money. But it was a clause in the contract that we didn't pay attention to, that they was able to double, triple the rent, and that was made us close the coffee shop. Alhamdulillah, now we're opening up a second coffee shop in Saudi Arabia. It should be open in 2 or 3 months. And we also have 2 coffee trucks, alhamdulillah. So I went from just researching, grinding, to being able to have my own coffee business, my own coffee truck, but it didn't happen overnight. So for you guys that live in a country like Sweden, that have the government, subhanAllah, the government supports you to go educate yourself. I had to sit on the computer, you know what I mean, and Google. But you guys, if you want to get into business, you can go to the government and they will support you to go learn business. Nowadays they have business. For example, they have college courses on coffee. Nowadays you can find a college course on anything you want. If you wanted to sell clothes, if you wanted to do fashion, you have to take advantage of this. What's the excuse of you guys living in Sweden and the government will pay for you to go get education? How come you guys not taking advantage of that? How many of you, by way of hands, taking advantage of these opportunities? Alhamdulillah, man. It should be way more hands than that. It should be way more hands than that. If you have outlets like this, you gotta take advantage of it. You know what I mean? You got about, mashallah, got 20 people that raise their hands. That's good. You know what I mean? So education is very important to start your entrepreneurship in your business. So my advice, then we can go into Q&A, because I know most 99% of y'all here fasting. You know what I mean? So I don't want to really talk about a restaurant we opening, because then y'all going to cut the talk and go eat. You know what I mean? So we probably could talk about that another time, but my advice for those that want to get into entrepreneurship, if they would say what advice that I can give that the people can walk away with, is to never ever give up. To keep grinding, to keep pushing, to never give up. And if you have an idea, you have to believe in yourself. You know what I mean? If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will believe in you. So if you have an idea, don't be shy of your ideas. Some people have brilliant ideas, but they're so shy that they don't want to move on with these ideas. You know what I mean? A lot of us in here, you know what I mean? A lot of you guys, especially when you come from the bottom, when you come from the ghetto, or you come from the environments where you feel like you don't have too many opportunities, that's when the brain start getting into survival mode. That's when the brain start getting into survival mode, when you got to ask yourself, the environment that you're living in, do you want this for your children? You know what I mean? Growing up in my neighborhood, when I seen many people dying and getting murdered, when I was 14, 15 years old, I said, man, if I had kids, there's no way I can raise my kids in it. There's no way I want my kids to be like this. Alhamdulillah, man, my oldest son is 19 years old. He's nowhere the way I used to be. I got a 13-year-old son that when I look at him, subhanAllah, I look at him and I thank Allah, thank God. I said, man, when I was 13 years old, I was selling drugs. When I was 13 years old, I was on the corner selling drugs. I look at my son, he's 13 years old, man, he barely can take out the garbage. I love it though, alhamdulillah. I love this. Wallahi, I love it. I look at him and say, man, he barely know how to take out the garbage in Saudi Arabia, you know what I mean? So when I see this, you guys got to have that same mentality, especially those that live in environments. Because yesterday I was with a good friend of mine, QD3. You guys know who QD3 is? Hopefully if he comes, inshallah, we're going to bring him. Is QD3? I don't know if he's here somewhere. But inshallah, if he's on his way, we're going to bring him here. QD3 is the son of Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones was the guy who started, produced Michael Jackson, Jackson 5s. He's a producer, music producer. Also, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was a television show with Will Smith. Quincy Jones is the one who started this. So Quincy Jones' son is QD3. He was a producer that did music for myself, Tupac, NWA, Nipsey Hussle, Snoop Dogg. In that world, he's a legend. His mother is Swedish. His father is Quincy Jones, and his mother is a Swedish woman. So 3 years ago, QD3, he moved back to Sweden. And he's in the hood. He's going to, what's the name of the hood that he was trying to get you to go to? Uthen? Yes, sir. Uthen or something like that. Utan. Okay, Utan. So he was, huh? Utan is the hood. Yes, so he in the hood, Utin. And he was telling me that he's telling me that some of the things that he said is actually bothering and is scary, because he was explaining some of the things that's happening in the hoods here. Utin. The hood. So we used to say the hood. So when I was talking to him last night, and QD3 was born in Sweden. When he was 17 years old, he went to America. He went to Harlem, he went to South Central LA, and he experienced Los Angeles gang violence. In the 80s, the gang violence in Los Angeles was devastating. 300, 400, 500 people was getting murdered a year in Los Angeles. So when I was talking to QD3, he said, in these environments, it's a lot of Muslims. Most of the people that's in these neighborhoods are Muslims. Unfortunately, most of the people in the gangs are led by Muslims. So QD3 said that it's something special that he see in these hoods that he said he didn't really see in America. But he also said there's something dangerous that if these people don't wake up, he believes it's going to be worse than America. He said because for America, for example, in the gangs, in these hoods, we had OGs. We had elders. We got OGs who could come and say, look, man, we had structure. For example, we have an OG who's 50, 60 years old. If he come on a block, majority of the time, and if he say something, the structure is you have to listen. If you don't listen to the OG, you're in trouble. You know what I mean? We have structure. The OGs is the ones who put it down. He said, here, there's no OGs. There's 16, 17-year-old kids, 18-year-old kids, 19-year-old kids killing each other. They have nobody to listen to. No OG can come and say, put the gun down, and they will listen. They beat up the so-called OGs here. So when he was saying this, he said, man, they at a crossroad in this country, man, that is very dangerous. If these people, and they don't know it. For example, these 17-year-old, 19-year-old kids who murdering each other, they don't know what the future holds for them. They have no hope. In America, when it got bad, we can turn on, for example, there's a guy named Big U. I like to use him as an example because I like what he's doing. Nipsey Hussle, for example. Snoop Dogg, for example. These are people that was Crips, gang. These are people that was Bloods and Crips. But the Bloods and Crips that came after them, they had hope. They could look up and say, well, Snoop Dogg was a Crip. But look at Snoop Dogg now, he's a successful businessman. Jay-Z was a big drug dealer, but now he's a billionaire. Here, they don't have that. They don't have that. So it's dangerous that if you believe that you don't have no hope for your future, then you will give up on your life and you won't mind taking the life of another person. Unfortunately, he said this is the mentality of the people that's involved in these gangs now, but you got hope. You can be the ones that can change it around. You can be 17, 18 years old now, put down your gun, go educate yourself. You can be the next Jay-Z. You can, and what I'm talking about from a business standpoint of view. From a business standpoint of view, you can be the one that go get education and change your life. You don't have to sit here and say, look, man, this is the only thing that the environment in my neighborhood because I'm in the hood. No, bro. We have stories of successful stories of people in our neighborhood who became successful businessmen. We have these stories. You guys can start those stories. You can be the ones that the generation that come after you can say, for example, we would say, for example, what's some of the gangs in these environments? What's the gang? Y'all too scared to mention the gang? The gang name? What is this? Just tell me, for example, what we would say the Swedish Bloods. We would say, for example, the Swedish Bloods, okay? Maybe the leader would be, what's the gangster name in Sweden? Huh? Udin OG. We just call it the Udin OG. The leader of that gang, if you have leader skills, you can start to run a business. If you have enough skills to stay on the corner and sell drugs, obviously you have enough skills to run a business. If you have a leader mindset that you can run a game, then you can run a business. It's the same thing, it's the same mindset. You can employ people. You can employ people, but if you don't have nobody that's up to you to look up to, man, then you gotta be the ones that the people can look up to. So when I was talking to, I know this going a little sidestepping, you know what I mean? I know we're talking about something different now, but the reason why I'm going to touch up on it, because when QD3 was telling me these things, it's mind-blowing for us. And it's scary for us, because we seen what happened in America. We seen it. Man, QD3 told me something. He said, man, here they throw grenades.
It's coming. He's coming.
QD3 is coming?
5 minutes. He's here.
5 minutes. I'm going to keep talking so we can get here and get right on the stage. So QD3 told me something. He said, man, they throw grenades here. I couldn't believe this. It's true, right? They throw grenades in this country, man. If you got enough heart to throw a grenade, man, you should be starting a business. Like, why you on that? You should be walking right to Microsoft. Brother, I do, telling me right here, you got Microsoft, if you can throw a grenade, you should have the courage to go to Microsoft and say, look, man, I need a high position. Here go my resume. It takes a lot to do these things. You know what I mean? I hope none of you grenade throwers, man, I hope you guys are in this room, because I want to be able to get this message to you. We hope one of the grenade throwers is up in here. You know what I mean? Because we want you guys to realize, man, that maybe you don't look up to no OGs or you don't have nobody to look up to, but that means you're going to have to be the one that start these stories. You're going to have to be the OGs. You're going to have to lead by example. You're going to have to get the people behind you. I know you don't want your little brother or you don't want your kids in the future to live that life. You got to be the ones that lay it down. You got to be the one to educate yourself. Start your own business. You know, because that life is played out. You're going to be in prison or you're going to be murdered. And another thing, man, I think, I'm not on the side of the police, but we need the police sometimes. Like I think it was Chris Tucker. He was saying, man, I live in Chris Tucker, he said he lived in a neighborhood, all $1 million homes. He said, I know we supposed to, in the neighborhood, like in the black neighborhood, we supposed to hate the police. He said, but if somebody break in my house, I'm not calling the Crips. I'm calling 5. So we like the cops sometimes. In some situations, we need the cops. You know what I mean? In some situation, if it wasn't for the cops, it would be worse than what it is. But the cops need to figure out a way to scare the people to stop doing these things, man. If here, you shoot somebody in the leg, you only get 1 year in prison? That's crazy. You gotta be able to scare, man, because sometimes in America, if we didn't have strong laws, man, everybody would be blowing their heads off. Man, I'll be talking to friends when I go back home, and I'll be like, how's everything, man? He's like, man, if I knew I was going to do 30 years in prison, man, I'd go blow this dude's head off right now. Wallahi, this is the mentality of people back home. But if you live in a state where you can shoot somebody in the leg and only get 1 year, everybody will be doing that back home. So I think the government need to figure out a way to deter the people. You need to be able to make the people realize that if you do these things, it's hardcore circumstance. My little cousin, they just gave him 37 years in prison in America for not even finding anything on him. They gave him 37 years in prison because somebody else got caught with drugs and said that he was the ringleader. He got 37 years in prison. So, you know, we ain't with the police, but we need laws, man. The laws need to be able to scare you guys and say, look, man, I don't want to be away from my mother and father or my children for 20, 30 years. Because in America, when you get life in prison, you get life in prison. Here, if you're not afraid to kill somebody because you might do 10 years, then that's going to make everybody do it. You know what I mean? So, but you need OGs, man. You guys got to put the law down in your communities. Especially if you got little brothers, little sisters. Like, ask yourself, man, do you really want your little brothers, your sisters, or your children to grow up in an environment where they're killing people like crazy? You really want this for yourself? Some people might want this. Some people might want this, but I know majority of us, we don't want this. Majority of us don't want our kids to grow up in an environment because we are the one that made that environment unsafe for our children. Some of us, you got to think ahead. You might be 17, 18 years old now, and you might be on the corner, you might be shooting, but what if you have kids in that same neighborhood? Because if you go to America and you talk to OGs that's now 40, 50, 60 years old, and they're in prison, and when you ask them, what do you regret? Most of them would say, I regret being part of the problem. I regret being part of the problem that now my kids cannot walk to school because it might be a drive-by shooting. So you got to think about that now. You might be 17, 18 years old and you ain't get to that point, but you got to start thinking like that. You got to be the OGs. I want to come back to Sweden and talk to some OGs. Y'all don't got no OGs out here. Everybody's 17, 18 years old. All the BGs is the ones that's doing all the crazy stuff. Abdul the OG, mashallah. Huh? Halal OG, yeah, but this is, and for example, if you go to Philadelphia, you go to New York, we respect the OGs because some of them went through hell to survive. We respect that. We respect that. But some of you guys don't have to wait to go to prison to be an OG. You should be the ones that say, you know what, man, I'm going to really change my environment. We want that from y'all. So.